Ahojte, vítam vás na dnešnom krásnom evente Nexteria Night of Chances. Moje meno je Lucia Štellerová. Venujem sa IT manažerom a expertom už posledných 16 rokov a dovolte mi dnes privítať veľmi zaujímavých hostí zo spoločnosti Dell. Máme pre vás pripravené neskutočné množstvo otázok a dovolte mi teda privítať a predstaviť vám dnešných diskutujúcich. My sme teda v štúdiu, takže dovolte mi predstaviť vám Michala Babeja, ktorý je Customer Engagement Platform Manager. My sme teda dvaja v štúdiu, takže máme masky a oproti v online svete sa nachádzajú ďalší kolegovia. Janka Čechutyová, ktorá je Senior Marketing Manager. Janka, ahoj.
Ahojte, príjemný pekný večer.
Please welcome Stephen Caulfield, who is a General Manager of Dell Bratislava and also Senior Vice President of Global Services. Stephen, welcome. We are happy to have you.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Takisto dovolím si pripomenúť ešte takých pár operatívnych otázok, teda inštrukcií. Skúste teda navštíviť určite virtuálny stánok Dell, uploadnúť vaše životopisy, pozrieť sa na úžasné príležitosti, ktoré vám Dell dokáže ponúknuť. A treba si pozrieť kariérnu stránku Night of Chances. Budeme sa tešiť na akékoľvek otázky, ktoré môžete poslať. Ak sa chcete teda spýtať, tak akúkoľvek otázku môžete použiť cez Slido. A máme teda hashtag Notes Dell. Takže budeme sa veľmi tešiť. Prepnem sa do angličtiny. So let me switch to English. And I guess we should start with the first question. And it's quite interesting. Maybe we start with Janka. So what's your story and how you started with Dell?
Yeah, so really glad to share that story. I will start probably with the first that I studied business and marketing here in Slovakia in Economic University in Bratislava. And then I moved for 1 year to Cambridge where I trained my English language. And after that, I wanted to join some big global company. So I went for an interview to another global company where I wanted to stay for 1 or 2 years. So it looks good in CV. You know, it's always good to start with some company which has a good name. But at the end, I finished 11 years there. And as I said, I studied business and marketing, but traditional marketing. And then I felt that I really stagnate somehow. And I discovered that the Dell is going through digital transformation of marketing. So 2.5 years ago, I've applied for the role which was open. I was luckily selected, and it was a big journey for me, and I do not regret that I jumped and tried new things because it gave me really a lot of opportunities to grow. So here I am as a leader of a team who is supporting marketing through digital transformation.
Oh, that's excellent. So everyone who is studying and interested in the marketing, please hear that Dell's got the interesting things to do. So let's apply as well. And Stephen, you have been within Dell for a really long time, and you had some stories, I guess, to tell. So what was your beginning and why?
Okay, I have a lot of stories. As you can gather, I'm not Slovak. I'm actually Irish, but I live in the Czech Republic. My wife is Czech. We met in Ireland a number of years ago, and the company asked me would I move to Bratislava 12 years ago for 2 years, and I'm still here. So that's my why is this Irish guy in Bratislava story. Why am I in Dell? I joined Dell 18 years ago. I've been in the IT services world for 30 years, which makes me feel very old. I've been in the IT services industry for longer than any of the students watching this. So thank you for inviting here to make me feel my age, everybody. But I've always had an interest in services and customers. And you know what I'd always heard was how well Dell looked after its customers, and it was a customer first, customer driven company. And the fact that I'm still here 18 years later, I suppose, tells you that we still are. And to Jana's point, you know, we're looking at more and more ways to service our customers the way they want to be serviced, which is now more than ever in a digital fashion. So, I mean, that's kind of very briefly kind of how I've ended up here and why I'm still in Dell.
Excellent. And Michal?
Good evening, dobrý večer. Good evening to everyone who did not hear me in the beginning. So let me tell a little bit of my story, and it's really my pleasure to be tonight with all of you, especially the young talented people online, the students of technical universities. Basically, my story also begins at the university in Banská Bystrica, University of Matthias Belli, where I was studying finance, and that was basically the first time when I heard about Dell looking for German-speaking candidates, because at that time it was very beginning in Bratislava, and it was only like a call center and a service center for the German market. And after school, Dell was not my very first employer, but since I worked in Žilina and I was traveling to Bratislava almost every other day, I worked as a business process consultant. I decided to move permanently to Bratislava and actually looking for work there. I ended up with Dell just thanks to a little plus that Dell offered on top of all the other companies that were on the market at that time. So, and that makes it 14 years as of today with Dell.
Mm. That's definitely a nice story. And of course, the IT market is changing, dynamic is here. It has been always before, but the situation with COVID and everything has changed. Now we have lots of questions also about the future, about the current situation. So perhaps, Steven, what would be your, let's say, opinion on the current market situation in IT within Slovakia, maybe within Europe, and business-wise? What's
Okay, well, I think let me start, because a lot of people will say, you know, you're in the IT industry, you're in the technology industry. Well, quite frankly, every company in the world is a technology company right now. Any company that doesn't view themselves as a technology company probably won't be in business within the next 5 years or so, because that's how reliant business is on technology, and it's the fuel that drives that is data. We all know that, you know, there's countless reams of data about what we do personally, how businesses run, etc., and it's technology that runs on that. So if you kind of treat that as the foundation, I will tell you that the technology industry is in a very healthy state globally. In Europe, it's doing extremely well. I think COVID has slowed down some things and sped up some other things. You know, it's sped up companies having to accommodate their employees working from home. So a lot of companies only had desktops, for example. So they're having to get laptops for their employees so they can work from home. Great for those of us in the technology industry. They've also got to figure out how their tools and processes change to accommodate not everybody being in one office, but being working from home. So, I mean, all of that is a big thing for the technology industry. I think in Slovakia, I think it's very strong. The one thing I've noticed over the last probably 5 to 7 years is the startup industry has gotten a lot. The startup businesses have become a lot stronger, and I think that's only a good thing, because I think technology within a country is nearly always driven by the level of innovation that's within that country. And I think any country that relies exclusively on big companies like Dell coming in to kind of give the technology foundation from a business perspective, it doesn't last forever, because we look for that innovation, entrepreneurialism that's on the ground there, and we're getting to see that kind of become even ever stronger. And even if you look at the technology we're using today, Slido, yeah. That's a Slovak startup, or was a Slovak startup not that long ago, you know, sold for big money to Cisco. And it's a great example of that startup mentality. And I think that's what's going to drive the future within Slovakia. It's that startup entrepreneurial spirit that keeps companies like ourselves in Slovakia, because these are the kind of people and the mindset that we're looking for. Excellent.
I definitely agree with you. And next question is perhaps for maybe Michal. There are IT technologies that are already changing our lives and might be in the near future. What about this? You know, like our generation or a young generation is obviously used to lots of different applications. What do you think about this?
Exactly. I'd like to connect to what Steven was talking about. The world of data, and now the big trends which are coming, the 5G, that's gonna make the world connected. Not only all the people, but all the devices around us, all the smart, basically washing machines will be smart, refrigerators, like everything will become smart very soon, even the light bulbs that you have in your flat apartment. And with the humongous amount of data, we are really looking about how to drive the insights from the data. That's what my team is also working on, the customer engagement platform for marketing. But this is really something that breaks through all the segments of IT, is how we collect the data, how we store it, how we extract knowledge from the data, and how we act on it. So drive our decision making going forward. And it's the same for all our customers, because they will go through the same transformation. Like Steven mentioned already, there was within 1 year in COVID, the digital transformation sped up. Like in 6 months, we've gone the same road as we've gone in the last 10 years. And that means basically that all the companies are going to look for more storage, for more data processing capabilities, and for young talents, individuals who will be able to build models and put the data into context, drive the insights, and put it into motion, and drive decisions on top of this data.
Excellent. And what about Janka, the marketing division? Obviously, Dell is a huge corporation. You've got some strategy. Obviously, digitalization of marketing is something which is absolutely necessary. What kind of vacancies, for example, do you have maybe in your division for the students?
For the students, like, there are plenty of opportunities for students. What Dell is doing great is offering them a kind of intern positions where they can really connect the theory into practice. And it is not only really said, it is the reality that really you can work with the team, you can understand what tools and technology teams are using, what is the strategy. For example, if I talk about marketing in specifically, they can write even their thesis there. And the biggest opportunity is really to get as well a kind of mentor, so senior people who already have that experience, so they can really see the difference. I don't know what was your experience when I was studying marketing. It was all about the theory. Like, I read plenty of books, I prepared myself, I went for an exam, and like, it was still only the theory. Like, for me, seeing this and observing the current evolution, it's a huge opportunity for students really to apply, to confirm that they want to do something in their career, and as well get that experience. So Miško mentioned previously CEP, client experience platform transformation. It was one of the key digital transformation which Dell went through, because Dell realized the importance of having data in the house. And with GDPR, privacy, how important it is, especially for marketing to use this data, but in a sensitive way. Not everyone wants to be contacted. And it is important for me as a marketer to understand where is data, how I can protect clients, and at the same time use them effectively and in a smart way to target, drive marketing strategies, online emails, adverts. So at the end, we contribute and drive the revenue. So back to that point, I like what Michal mentioned, that all this COVID and digital transformation of current society, there are plenty of companies which do not realize that, but they got to the point that they need to transform their businesses. And I believe they realized how much information now they've got about their clients because of online orders, because of what they are buying, segments, all this kind of golden egg, which they can use, and they can use it in a good way to transform their business, target as well through marketing, and gain the growth. So for students, back to that point, like I believe it is the best time if they are talented, if they want to really understand how the world has changed, it is the biggest opportunities for them to join and seek for internship opportunities within Dell, to understand, to get mentorship, to write the thesis, to get flexible hours, as well to earn some money, because there is like 20 hours and they can earn some money, what I believe is beneficial for everyone. So plenty of opportunities, and I believe I can share with them that there is a web page, Career at Dell. They can seek there on Facebook and as well on internet, and they can find really these types of positions which are open there.
Excellent. Well, it's a very interesting topics that we have here. And Stephen, so what is the, let's say, trends of your business that you're bracing for? Is Dell maybe changing some strategies? Of course, it's difficult to talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the way we look at our industry right now is today is the fastest pace at which this industry has ever gone, and for the next 10 years, today will be the slowest it's ever been. So what that says is it's going faster and faster and faster, and you've either got to innovate, evolve, or as a company you die in this industry. So what are some of the key things that are driving that? 5G is a massive driver of that, because people are going to be that's going to be, sorry, not the Game of Thrones quote, but the smartphone that is the desktop in your pocket. Yeah, I mean, I don't know any of the younger generation who use a smartphone to speak to people. Yeah, they're using it to communicate with people, but not to speak to people. So it's less a smartphone and more a smart device. So what that tells you is everybody wants their data and their day-to-day running of their lives on their fingertips. So 5G is only going to accelerate that. People are going to be watching TV, their favorite shows live on the go, because 5G will give that to you. I think, artificial intelligence, machine learning, that's going to be absolutely massive. And, it'll never take away the human aspect of it, because I think, when you look about artificial intelligence and machine learning, you're effectively talking about compute IQ. And the one thing compute IQ can never compete with is human EQ. So that emotional intelligence that we as human beings have is always going to be our advantage over the computer. So if anyone is scared that the computers are taking over the world, they're not. They've got to learn emotional intelligence and all the flaws that come within it. So I think that that gives me hope that we're not going to be run by computers into the future. That sci-fi world is not going to exist, I hope. And I think when you kind of get beyond all of that, it is, as for companies, it's really going to be, how do you deal and manage with all of that data that you have? How do you manage it? How do you sort it? How do you learn from it? How do you keep it secure? Everything to do with that. I mean, it's really incredibly complex. And then I look at things like even today, right? I've had an issue at my bank in Slovakia, which is VUB Bank, so I'm not going to give them any good press. They've been telling me my new card is waiting for me in a branch in Bratislava, and I'm asking them, I can't get there. COVID is stopping me getting there. Yeah, can you not send it to me? Oh, we can, but we need to charge you. And I'm not paying for it. Then when I'm away, if I'm out of the country, they stop my card the first time I use it, because their machine learning is really poor, because what it tells them is I'm not where they thought I should be. So rather than ring me to confirm it really is me, they just shut my car down and put me through a 20-minute process where I got to ring someone and get back to them. So I think companies and banks and service companies have really got to embrace the fact that none of us have the patience to wait for our service anymore. We want it now, we want it on our terms, and we want it in the way in which we want it delivered, not in the way in which the vendor wants to deliver it to us. So the way I generally refer to this is we're evolving from, as customers and consumers, we're evolving from having service delivered to us at the convenience of the provider to going with providers that provide us the service at our convenience. Yeah, and the likes of Uber do that for us, Netflix do that for us. All of these newer companies that are app driven deliver what we want, when we want it, how we want it. And I think that's really the trend that I see right now. And with all of that, there used to be, before my gray hair days, there used to be a very big split between how you behaved as a consumer and how you behaved in your business world, in your business life as a commercial person. Those days are gone. They're one and the same. So we see our commercial customers expecting services to be delivered to them exactly how they get service in their consumer and in their private lives. And that's really, so when we talk about transformation, be it digital transformation, business transformation, they're the kind of transformations we're talking about, because that's what our customers are demanding from us. And if we don't do it, we won't be in business.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And so I guess that Dell has a really specific and niche capabilities of your teams, guys. So maybe Michael, question to you. So what are these niche capabilities of for example, of your team or?
So maybe I'll start with Dell in Slovakia or in Bratislava. Like really the niche capabilities is that we attracted a lot of young talent over the years. I really started as a youngster basically after university, and also others are joining on the way. We are transforming basically as a site from German speaking, as I mentioned, through the finance center, now through a data science hub, which we are building, and my team is part of this. And what is niche is automatically, they say it's a time zone location, because it's very beneficial. Our teams can nicely connect with APJ, with Asia, Japan, and at the same time we can connect with Latin America and the US and other parts of the world, because we have overlap with all the time zones. That's a strong benefit. As well as that, we have a lot of young talents from the universities who already come with a good understanding of the data. They have some SQL knowledge. They are trying some coding in C, C++, or Python, etc. And they already tried some models to build on top of the data. And what we really need is to attract those students and basically offer them to work. And that's something that Dell is offering, and only the big corporation can do. And I have personally benefited from that as well, is working with large systems, with the big data databases, which you cannot experience when you are in a small business or in a very small company. Like the amount of data that you can experience at Dell and work with, and it's not only financial, but it's the data about the customers, the services they use, the procurement, the pricing, etc. All the models is humongous. So that is definitely something where the young technical people can really learn and grow, and us as a site and as a company, we grow with them.
Excellent. So that means that you probably have a lot of plans to hire more and more talent, I guess. Exactly. And Janka, what would you say?
I would just before you go on to Janka, sorry, Janka, we have a global target to have up to 50% of our new hires being graduates. So for that audience here, I mean, that should be music to your ears, because we're looking for young talent that are kind of fresh out of college that can help shake up old people like me to the new ways of thinking.
Excellent. That's great to hear. So all the people who are listening right now, I would just send my CV straight forward, not to think about it.
Do that.
Yeah, so I mean, and also you, Stephen, you said very important thing, which I like about the technology, and also like emotional intelligence. This is, I think, one of the most important soft skills IT and any business should have. And obviously, sometimes I feel like young people sometimes are missing on these little things that obviously everything can be learned, also probably emotional intelligence. Janka, what do you think about the skills that, you know, Dell employees need to have, or even a young people would need to have, or they should maybe work a little bit more on it?
Yes, you brought a very important point to discussion. Like, I can start with technical skills because it is probably what everyone or majority of the team has in here. Like, the future and why we are seeking for new generation is about understanding to digital world, digital platforms, working with data, coding. Steven mentioned artificial intelligence, machine learning capabilities. All these are very important from technical perspective, and that's like key where we are going. But when it comes to soft skills, like, it is on the top. We are not interested only in people who are able to code. Like, coding, it's fine, but you need to interact with people. You need to understand different cultures, different people's background. So emotional intelligence is huge portion which everyone should think of. Like, especially now during COVID-19, I'm proud to lead a global team. I've got people located across the globe, in India, in China, in Panama, in US, here in Slovakia. And trust me, like, the biggest challenge was when we went through this challenging period of time, how we interact, how we talk to each other. Sometimes I felt like a psychologist during some discussions, but it is important. Like, you really need to adapt as well from this perspective and have that skill set, because only happy people can contribute and they can deliver on expected or beyond the expected outcome. So when it comes to soft skills, emotional intelligence, it is super, super critical. Communication skills, maybe even a storytelling, like how you want to tell what is the vision and where we are going, it is important. And then from soft skills, the third group, I would say it is as well about a combination, and it is my personal opinion, about a combination of project management and agile capabilities. Like, you saw now during the last year how important it was to quickly adapt, to be flexible. It is what agile methodology is learning everyone, to quickly like change and adapt. But still, I believe that you need to have a framework for that, a kind of really what is your vision, where you are going. So have it in a combination of understanding and agile methodology.
That's definitely very important things to hear. I hope the students have been making some notes. And I don't know, Stephen, maybe you can tell us, are there any upcoming plans for Dell globally and locally in Bratislava? Maybe you can share little hints.
I mean, there's nothing specific that I can share. I will tell you, we are experiencing growth. We had the best year we ever had. We just closed that out this last year, which a year ago, when we started in COVID, we certainly were not expecting that. So there certainly has been some upside for us through COVID. But I think, you know, where we see our growth is, and Jana and Michal have spoken about this, a lot of the technical skills are going to be very strong, are going to be very important to us, because, you know, I've talked about machine learning, about artificial intelligence. We talk about 5G and the growth that's going on in there. You know, we've got a key program for us called Apex, which is, you know, it's cloud-based and everything as a service. So everything we do is as a service. So, you know, and people get kind of a little bit they get confused about what do we mean. It's basically a consumption model, and you pay for what you use. It's what we do in our daily lives. Yeah. So I think that's how our business is going and growing. We see, you know, we have our largest financial center outside of our headquarters is here in Bratislava. So if you've got strong financial economic skills, there's plenty of roles for you. We've got a very big marketing organization that's going to grow. Our data science community is absolutely growing hugely and will continue to do that. And I think that the reality is, you know, we want to hire good people. So we're not, and this is probably not right of me to say, but I'm less concerned about the very specifics about the graduation or the program someone's done in college, and I'm more concerned about the individual that walks through the door. And let me give you an example. If somebody that was a graduate and came to me to work in a business function and they showed me their red diploma, I'd probably say you're not a good fit for us. And what I mean by that is we like people who are not afraid to fail, because how we innovate in our business is through failure and through learning from that failure. So if we have somebody who walks through our door who's gone through their whole education, never having failed anything, they're probably going to fail half a dozen times in their first few weeks in Dell. Yeah, and we like that. We encourage that because that's where true innovation and true learning comes from. So I think that's critical for us. So it's the type of person. And, you know, let me give you a little piece of advice. If you're going to walk into an interview in a Dell office, let the first thing you do smile. That's the emotional intelligence piece. That's how you engage with people. That's one thing a computer can't do to you and a technical skill can't give you, is that ability to smile, connect with people, because the biggest learnings we make as teams together is how we interact and how we learn from each other. And I certainly engage and interact more with people that I smile with than someone who has this very straight face and, you know, they may be very nervous underneath and they think it's unprofessional to do that. Let me tell you, it's very professional to smile. It's very professional to engage and talk openly with people and learn from people, because that's how we all get better. I've kind of answered your question in a very roundabout way, Lucia, because I think the growth areas are everywhere and in everything we do, but they're very particular. Just look outside you and see how the world you're in is changing in relation to technology. If you're able to embrace that and you've learned from that and you're not afraid to go and learn new things, well, then you're probably right for us.
Excellent. And I really like the idea of not being scared of failure. That's really important to hear. Especially, you know, from such a big company, because Dell is a huge brand. It's got a status in Slovakia for lots of young people. It's a great company, so they might feel a bit tense when they go for an interview. But this is great to hear that there is a huge amount of humanity here, guys, and that this is really nice. So what about, we talked a lot about the technology and the skills. What do you think about, like, I know to start a question about educational system in Slovakia, it's a little bit difficult topic, but isn't Dell maybe planning to open own university? Or because, you know, you have such a huge knowledge, expertise?
I would say to you, you know, I don't see us opening a university or anything like that. I think there's a couple of things we'll do, and we have done, which is we partner with the third level institutions. We even partner with high schools, because not everybody is able or wants to go to university, and then that doesn't mean there isn't a place for them in Dell. And I use myself as a role model for that. I left Ireland at 17, 18 years of age because we were 30% unemployment. Education was incredibly expensive and my family couldn't afford to send me to college. So I went to London like most Irish people did. And my college or my university was figuring out how to cook for myself, feed myself, find a job, pay my bills, and basically look after myself. I wouldn't want any of my children to go do that, but that's how I work. So we believe that it's not just the coming out of universities, it's coming out of every side of education. And for us to get the most out of the graduates that are hitting the marketplaces, we need to partner with the educational institutions. We also need to partner with government. I call it the three-legged stool. And if that three-legged stool can work together and start to create educational syllabuses that are aligned to what the business is looking for, because you know, our company, like every other corporate, on average, it takes us 6 to sometimes 12 months to get a fresh graduate fully up and running in our business, running at 100%. Because we've got to retrain them how to operate in the business world as opposed to how to operate in the classroom. And I think that's why the graduate intern program that we have is very important for us, because that's a way for us to get kind of pre-graduate students used to working in the business environment. So when they do leave university, hopefully they liked working as an intern in Dell. And if they did, we'll try and get them a full-time job. The benefit for us is they're fully up and running by the time they can walk in the front door. So we get the return on investment much, much quicker. Now, the other thing I will say in relation to education is, now all of you students might not like to hear this, but there's a lot of research done on this, but the current generation that's going to hit the workforce are going to have to reskill themselves up to 7 times over the course of their career. That's how industry and the business world is changing so much. So you may leave your university with whatever your subject is, but you're going to have to reskill yourself, because that knowledge is not going to last you the whole of your career. You're going to have to learn new things very consciously, not subconsciously, through your career. So to that extent, yes, we are going to have to continually educate our team members, because we're not going to expect them to do it themselves, because we want to retain them. And if we don't educate them and partner with them to educate them, our competitors will. So to that extent, Lucia, that's probably the way we are going to create a universities within our company to educate our staff on the skills. We call it workforce transformation and the skills of the future. So we're already doing that, and we'll continue to do that and evolve that over the next many number of years.
That's excellent to hear, because not only in IT, but in general, if you want to be successful and be up to date, it's never-ending learning a cycle, I call it, whether we are young or old.
Yeah, I will tell you, I have been, over the last 3 months, I've spent more time on calls and researching cloud technology and 5G technology, because that's something I'm having to get involved in my job. And I can't do that knowing what I knew 6 months ago. I have to really learn and spend time learning that. So I know a lot more about the likes of 5G now than I probably ever thought I'd want to know, but I have to, because if I don't, the company is going to find someone who does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So your training programs are probably quite intense. So you have a special education for professionals and for the students, I guess. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? For example, like how do you maybe train and educate your people in the long term? I guess you have some career path for them.
Conversation. Maybe I can take this one. So basically, what we do with our folks, important is always to have an open dialogue, and you've got that during your regular one-on-ones discussion. So for me as a leader, I believe even during COVID situation, I found that it is even much more important to have that dialogues and regular conversation, and you can see like what is the potential and what is as well the future aspirations of all your team members. So one-on-ones, it is the first one. Then we've got a kind of IDP, we call it individual development plan. It is a kind of official document which you prepare based on your conversation with your team member, where you really plan like, okay, where I am now, what I want to achieve, and what everything I need to go through. Like back to that what Stephen mentioned, that it is about a constant education. It is as well what Dell offers, like we've got a contract signs with LinkedIn, where you can find a lot of different modules which are relevant for your like assertive communication, project management, agile methodology, whatever you really are interested in, and you can go through this. It is something what you can do online based on your flexible time, so you can really adjust it whenever you need that. For me personally, what is important is as well a kind of mentorship, so assigning or having some partner on that journey who is much more skilled, who already went through something similar and who can advise you or coach you how you want to grow, where you want to go, what you need to do. Like, it's nice to say, like, I want to be vice president or I want to be GM. But the question is like, okay, so tell me what skills you believe you should have to be able to perform that kind of job. And based on that, you can then prepare that career path. You can then adjust the learnings modules which you want to go through, plus as well be exposed to the situation, right? So it is as well about communicating. It is about being part of some diversity group, because it is not only about taking modules, it is about that emotional intelligence which we mentioned, and you can gain a network of people who participate in some diversity topics or in some volunteering activities. So you are picking up not only that key things which you need for your work, but as well building the network and as well building your soft skills. I don't know, gentlemen, if you want to add anything else on top of that.
Yeah, maybe I'll add a couple of notes there, because Steven and you, Janka, you mentioned a couple of topics. So first, fully agree with Steven, like the young professionals coming in, definitely we allow them to fail. Everyone's allowed to fail. What we do not accept is if you fail round and round and do the same mistakes again. So that's a little update to that. And the other thing, I was a young student as well, and I was thinking that I can go and change the world like everyone else, obviously. I grew from that already, but still trying. And what we allow the young people to do is exactly this: come and think big, but then start small and move fast. That's very important. And as they go and learn, we support them, as Janka mentioned. We have the IDP. They can plan. Every individual can plan their own learning, and we as managers have to align this with the outcomes we are following, either on the project or as a company as such, on the overall strategy. And what's important there, maybe some people can say that, all right, you had this student coming in and you assign him a buddy or a mentor and they work together, but you did not pay him any good training. But if you think about it, every data engineer or every technical specialist who's on the job and is training someone else is only basically limited to 30% of his own productivity. So there is a huge investment. 70% of that individual is invested to a young student or someone who is ramping up and learning. So, and that's what we do. We pair the newcomers basically with a seasoned senior tech advisors who work together and invest a lot of their time and skills and knowledge and experience to the newcomers, so they can ramp up quickly and become effective. So everyone's on this journey. Excellent. And so that means obviously you're supporting, as each company does, innovation. And Dell Slovakia's most interesting and important innovation use cases. Can you share with us, please, something? I think that's something that we can share. Oh, sorry, Steven.
Go on, Michal, you go. You probably have more specifics than I have.
Yeah, I'm just going to talk for my own case, as I've been in IT for some time at Dell, and we've been building this dream of data science hub in Bratislava. And with this use case, with this proof of concept, we have basically brought in even bigger team, and that's the team, the CEP team, that's my team, the Customer Engagement Platform. And over the last 2 years, we have hired 70 people plus to join us. And that is really innovative. We took a lot of data in-house that we've been sending out to other vendors, and we are basically processing this data and building the marketing recommendations on top of that, recommending the products and bringing the value to our customers. Basically, that's the goal. And that's the biggest innovation that we are going to continue running and building here on site. Maybe, Steven, you had something else.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to talk on a little more general level, but I mean, we're starting to focus a lot more on how can we win patents for some of the things that we do, and patents generally get awarded for innovative ways of doing things. Now, people normally associate a patent with a product, so it's a particularly innovative type of product. We're going after patents in terms of process and how we do things. So, I mean, the most recent one that comes to mind is we want a patent for how we how we can do real-time pricing based on the data that we get back from the vast quantities that we have to make sure we give the best possible price to the customer real-time, not tomorrow, not next week or next month, but it's real-time based on the data that's to hand at that particular moment. So we have set ourselves a stretch goal over the next sort of year, 18 months to quadruple the number of patents that as a site that we get for Dell Slovakia. So, I mean, that will tell you how ambitious we are when it comes to innovation. It's really, really important to us. And as I said, you know, as good as you are last week or last year, that's great. We'll stop and pause and say, well done. But it's all about how we do it better tomorrow and next week and next year.
That's great to hear. So, we are coming also to the part where the students did prepare quite a lot of questions for us. So they will be displayed in I guess in a minute. So we still have maybe one short question. So how is the interview process at Dell? Like you've got like grilling 5 rounds of interviews, or can you tell us a secret?
Yeah, I can take this one. Like, you know, the situation has changed. Previously, we had face-to-face interviews, but I will start with the great work which our talent acquisition team is doing. Because basically, if we have a need to fill some position, we've got firstly a discussion with them to set up the expectations so they really know like who to find, what skill set, and things like that. So they are the first one who goes through all CVs, who checks whether candidates are meeting the required expectations. And then if there are some candidates, they are sending it to wait to managers. And if managers like say, yes, I want to see this candidate or that candidate, there is an online interview at this moment through Zoom application. So we can see, we can talk openly. And that's the first round. Usually when we search for technical roles, like Michal would tell you, then we do give as well a kind of SQL test to candidates. So we understand as well what is the level of their understanding to coding. And then there is usually as well second round of interview with some business partners or who the candidates will support. Me personally, I love to take to interviews as well my team members who went through interview process education. So they can explain day-to-day work, and at the same time, like they can pick up the team members who they will work with. So it is really a kind of not only my decision, I want to hear as well my folks who are on the team, if they can imagine to work with them effectively. So for lower position, maximum 2 interviews rounds, more higher you go, then it is for sure like 3-4 rounds of interviews.
That's great. And we already have some questions from the students. And actually, we have quite a relevant question now. Someone asking, is it possible to get a job at Dell with no previous experience?
Yes.
Yes.
You know what because, I need to add? Yeah, go.
I was just going to say, when you say no previous experience, you've been in college for probably or university for 4 or 5 years. That's an experience. I presume you've had to do something to help you get through your university. That's an experience. Everything you do is an experience. And think about your life in terms of that when you come and sit in front of, whether it's somebody at Dell or anywhere else. Yeah, you know, you just ask yourself, how can I differentiate myself from everyone else in my class? And then focus on that. And as I said, you have experience. Mightn't be kind of what this 50-something-year-old man has, but you have experience.
Yeah, that's exactly the way we should think about it and look at our perspective. And maybe a question.
I would only add one point. Lucia, sorry, I would add only one point. What I believe is important: passion. If really that person wants to grow, wants to learn, and contribute. In that way, like if you do not have passion and experience, like that's difficult. But if you do not have experience, but you are passionate about something, you've got a beautiful opportunities in here.
That's a very important point. Excellent.
And I'm silent.
I think I can add a funny story there. It's a very specific case that happened. There was a guy applying to a role in the Global Information Solutions team, GIS. And the guy came to an interview and he said, "Oh, I'm from GIS. What is your GIS? Geographical Information Systems." but that guy was so passionate about working at Dell and showing his skills, and he made it. And he's very successful as of today. So everything's possible.
Excellent to hear. And we have a next question. So do you think no code is the future of IT?
That's a very tricky question. I don't want to deep dive into it. I think a few years back we had something like NoSQL. Is it going to be the future of SQL, right? That's very similar. I think it really depends on where you use it and what is the business case and what is the outcome you're trying to solve. I think there will still be place for relational databases. There will still be place for NoSQL or unstructured data. There will still be a very strict algorithmic thinking and working, and there can be really no code as well applied in some specific cases. I'm not going to talk in general that it's yes or no, it's maybe.
Thanks a lot for that. And František is asking, we live in a fast digital age where the use of tablets and phones on the fly is on a daily basis. Plans, respectively, why Dell doesn't focus on these products either?
I'll take that one. We do on tablets. We have a very big business in the education sector. Probably less so here in Europe, but certainly in the US, it's a very big part of our business. Tablets they call it the K-12 sector, which is the education sector. And we did produce a phone. We actually had a phone around this size long before it became fashionable. But the reason why we got out of it is for phones are very unique. There's two ways you make money on phones. It's either through the comms, the telco side of it, so just the cost of providing the data to it, or the operating system side of it. And the operating system was kind of tied up with Apple and Android. Even back then it was BlackBerry were in there as well, but they're pretty much gone. The hardware side of the phones, there is no money to be made. In fact, everybody loses money on the hardware. They make money on either the OS side of it, or if you're a telco provider, you make it on that. Now, where we're operating on, particularly on the phones, is the support we do for the telcos. So we provide a lot of their infrastructure for how they run their networks. It's a big focus for us now in terms of how, if you look at their core infrastructure, which is the networking side of it, how we're going to partner with them and work with them there. So it's a bigger business opportunity for us supporting what's going to the phones rather than it is on producing the phones themselves. So I hope that answers that question.
It makes sense, definitely. Mm-hmm. So what is your favorite podcast that you regularly listen to? Maybe there's
a podcast called Trailblazers, and it's hosted by somebody called Walter Isaacson. We actually sponsor it, and Walter Isaacson, for those of you who may know, is an extremely good author. He did probably the best biography of Steve Jobs a number of years back, and it's all about innovation. And for those of you who like beer, and your students, I'm sure some of you do, look up the episode where he talks about the innovations in the production of beer over the centuries, up to right now the micro beer trend. It's a really cool how you can take something that you wouldn't see the kind of an innovation linked to, but apparently there's a lot of innovation in beer.
I guess it is. Michael, do you have any favorite podcast?
It's a good question. I actually don't, because I spend a lot of time working, and the precious time I have, I try to invest it with my family, or if I need some information, I'm searching. So I listen to the podcast that I find. I don't listen for those which are coming every day, like there's something you might be interested in. Right now I'm in control of what I hear and what I read.
Yeah.
And maybe later I'll be like from day to day I listen to the podcast from one newspaper, Slovak newspaper, because I don't have any time to follow the politics and stuff like that. Yeah. So at least I'd like to stay in touch with culture and what's happening around me. But I'm not going to name it because it might be advertising.
Of course. Janka, any favorite podcasts of yours?
No, for me, like that's interesting because, I've got folks on my team or friends in my network, and even one from Dell who established a podcast. So she shared with me that piece. So I'm as well a fan of targeted ones. So when we talk about something and then someone shares with me, I prefer much more really like browsing and searching. Like Steven mentioned, like I was smiling in here when he investigated on 5G. Whenever I want to understand as well the new technologies, I'm doing the same. Like I'm checking usually on LinkedIn or as well browsing other pages through keywords and checking like what is happening, why it is happening and things like that. So that's my approach.
Excellent. So
and I think that's one thing, the one thing that talks to is curiosity. And that's what I would say to all of you. Be curious. Find your own stuff. By all means, ask people what they do, but find your thing as well. And you find that by being curious. That's
exactly the way to get yourself forward, with the curiosity. Yeah. But I have an interesting question. And actually, I'm curious, Steven, what would you answer to this? Because what technology would you invest into if you had to choose a single one?
Wow, that's interesting. What technology would I invest in? I think any technology that's in healthcare, and I don't mean by COVID or anything like that, but I think there's a huge amount of investment being done to look at cure previously incurable diseases, and I know that we partner with some healthcare companies, and they are leveraging our technology to do research into genome technology to predict in children in particular when those kids that may be more prone to cancer. And I think I'd invest in that for a lot of reasons. One, it's helping kids, and which is very important. But it's something I think we really should be doing. I think the other, from a very personal point of view, my eldest daughter has type 1 diabetes, so I'm always looking at new technology around that. And the great thing is actually there's a lot of technology comes out of around here. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody with the sensor on their arm here. Any person with type 1 diabetes, that was invented by a Czech person working for an American company called Abbott Laboratories. The shameful thing was I had to get it in Ireland for 2 years before it was available to me in Czech. But they're the kind of things I look for. I look for technology that impacts me personally, because then that's when I get the passion and the emotion about it.
Excellent. We have unfortunately short time, so we have a last 3 questions to ask. What is your opinion on a 4-day labor week? I would love to.
My view is get the job done, and I work this with my team. If you can get your job done in 4 days, get it done in 4 days. It may be shame on me. I need to give you more work to do. But I do think that will, and maybe in my lifetime, in my career lifetime, that may well come about. I know they do it in Asia. I think it's in Japan. They may have tried that, and they found productivity increase significantly. So I do think there's something in it.
Excellent. Michael, would you prefer?
Yeah, it's a good question, and as humorous as it might be, I have piled up a lot of holiday days from last year, which I could not spend due to COVID, etc. So I'm going to test this 4-day week in a couple months now, taking Fridays off, so I can let you know later how it worked. And fully agree with Steven.
Yeah, and do you have a lot of lifetimers work at Dell Slovakia?
We have somebody who celebrated their 30th year in Dell only this past week or so. Now, we've only been in Dell Bratislava for 18 years, so he obviously didn't spend all his time there. So 30 years in the one company, that's a pretty significant achievement.
Yeah.
I would say Michael Dell is there from the start, and he's still very enthusiastic about how the business is going, and he's very engaged. So that for me is a huge motivation.
Excellent. Well, the leaders are always important part. What was your first ever job? Seasonal, part-time, student?
My first ever job was building trailers. I come from a rural part of Ireland, and I went to work when I was 13, I think, helping a company that was building trailers. So I learned how to cut wood properly for the kind of sides of the trailers, and then learned how to weld for the metal bits that hung it all together. So that was my first job.
Mm-hmm. So for me, it was in grocery. I was 16 and I helping to prepare everything for shoppers. So that was the first one.
Very handy.
And I still remember, you know, the motivation was to earn money for your first mobile phone. So in that case, it was cool and you had to earn money. So now it's obvious, but it was that.
Yeah, Janka, for me was to earn money to buy cigarettes. So that's a misspent youth. I haven't smoked in a long time, so I've learned the error of my ways.
Good to hear. Michael, your first job?
For me, it was like working with computers, like de-assembling and assembling computers, and I was also producing like cables for the very old phones, which did not have any connector. Like every phone today has a connector. Those had like hidden pins under the battery. So you had to produce a cable that fits under the battery, close it, and then you could connect with the PCs.
Oh, that was
that was fun.
Do you have a hobby or a passion that you regularly commit to?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Golf.
I do have.
Not enough. Sorry, Jana, go on.
No, go. I know that you can show it to us. You've got a lot of equipment behind you as well.
I'm a golfer. I come from the west of Ireland, so I grew up playing golf. So I have my eldest two daughters. Last year, I introduced them to golf. So I haven't played an awful lot over the last number of years. So I'm hoping that'll do two things for me. It'll allow me to kind of play my passion, golf, but do it with my children, which are my other passion.
Excellent. Janka?
So for me, it is behind. I love acrylic paintings. So all my house, you know, when we built house, I wanted to have original paintings and they were expensive. So I had to paint them on my own. So that's as well my hobby.
That's a very cost-saving and creative idea. So
yeah. For me, cycling. I cycle a lot in town, outside of town with my kids. So that's my hobby.
Nice. So Peter Sagan or mountain bike?
He's very influential. He's the best, definitely.
Excellent. I guess this is all. So I'm going to switch back to Slovak language. Takže poprosím vás, uploadnite si svoj životopis na najdovchances.online a získajte svoj job v Dell. Určite držíme vám všetkým palce. Ďakujeme veľmi pekne za priaz, za celé sledovanie. Thank you very much, Steven, for being so nice and letting us to know few answers. Ďakujeme, Janka, za tvoju pomoc takisto a Michal, sme radi, že sme vás tu mohli mať.
Ďakujem pekne.
Takže držíme vám všetkým palce. Držíme vám všetkým palce a prajeme ešte pekný zážitok z Night of Chances. Majte sa pekne.
Ďakujem.